Hello everyone, now we are going to learn about respiratory system in detail. The respiratory system is responsible for the exchange of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide between the body and the environment. It consists of several organs including the nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, lungs and diaphragm. First, let's learn about nose. The nose is the primary organ of the respiratory system. It is responsible for filtering, warming and humidifying the air before it enters the body. The nasal cavity is lined with tiny hairs called cilia which trap particles and prevent them from entering the lungs. Then pharynx. The pharynx is the muscular tube that connects the nasal cavity and mouth to the larynx and esophagus. So it's a muscular tube that connects the nasal cavity and mouth to the larynx and esophagus. It serves as a passageway for both food and air. Then larynx. The larynx or voice box is a cartilaginous structure located between the pharynx and trachea. It is responsible for producing sound and preventing food and other foreign particles or objects from entering the trachea. Then trachea. The trachea or windpipe is a rigid tube composed of cartilage rings that runs from the larynx to the bronchi. It serves as a conduit for air between the lungs and the external environment. Then bronchi. The bronchi are two large tubes that branch off the trachea and lead into the lungs. They further divide into smaller branches called bronchioles, which eventually lead to the alveoli. Then lungs. The lungs are the primary organs of respiration. They are two spongy organs located on either side of the chest. The lungs are responsible for exchanging gases between the body and the external environment. Then alveoli. The alveoli are tiny air sacs located at the end of the bronchioles. They are responsible for the exchange of gases between lungs and the bloodstream. Then diaphragm. The diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle located at the bottom of the chest. It separates the thoracic and abdominal cavities and is responsible for breathing. The respiratory system is controlled by the respiratory center, which is located in the medulla oblongata of the brainstem. The respiratory center receives input from chemoreceptors that monitor the levels of oxygen, carbon dioxide and pH in the blood. The respiratory center adjusts the rate and depth of breathing to maintain proper levels of these gases in the body. Then various respiratory disorders can affect the proper functioning of the respiratory system, such as asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or COPD, pneumonia and lung cancer. Treatment options for respiratory disorders depend on the specific condition and may include medications, oxygen therapy, pulmonary rehabilitation and surgery. Additionally, lifestyle modifications such as quitting smoking and avoiding exposure to air pollutants can help prevent respiratory disorders and improve overall respiratory health. Then description of major respiratory organs. The respiratory system consists of various organs and structures responsible for breathing and gas exchange. The major respiratory organs include the nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi and lungs. Nose is the main external opening of respiratory system that filters, humidifies and warms the incoming air. The nasal cavity is lined with hair and mucous membranes that trap dust, bacteria and other foreign particles. The nasal conchae increase the surface area of the nasal cavity, which enhances the air filtration process. Then next, pharynx. The pharynx or throat is the muscular tube that connects the nasal cavity and mouth to the larynx and esophagus. It is divided into three regions like nasopharynx, oropharynx and laryngopharynx. The pharynx serves as a passageway for air and food and also helps to warm and humidify the air. Then larynx region. The larynx or voice box is a short tube made up of cartilage and muscles that connects the pharynx to the trachea. The larynx contains the vocal cords which vibrate to produce sound when air passes over them. It also has a protective function as it closes when food is swallowed to prevent it from entering the trachea. Then trachea or windpipe is a rigid tube that extends from the larynx to the bronchi. It is lined with ciliated mucous membranes that help to move foreign particles and mucus out of the respiratory tract. The trachea also has rings of cartilage that keep it open and prevent it from collapsing. Then bronchi are two branches that arise from the trachea and enter the lungs. The bronchi are further divided into smaller and smaller tubes called bronchioles, which end in clusters of air sacs called alveoli. Lungs are the primary organs of respiration. They are divided into lobes and are enclosed in a membrane called the pleura. The bronchioles and alveoli within the lungs are the site of gas exchange between the air and the body. Blood. So the bronchioles and alveoli within the lungs are the site of gas exchange between air and blood. Overall, the respiratory organs work together to provide body with the oxygen it needs and to remove carbon dioxide, a waste product of cellular metabolism. Then tracheal system in detail. The tracheal system is a network of tubes that facilitate the delivery of oxygen and removal of carbon dioxide in insects. It is an intricate respiratory system which is highly efficient and supports the metabolic demands of insects. The tracheal system extends throughout the body of insects and is composed of a series of interconnected tracheal tubes that transport air directly to cells, tissues, and organs. Now its structure and working. The tracheal system consists of trachea, tracheoles, and spiracles. The trachea are long chitinous tubes that serve as the primary conduits of air. They extend throughout the body of insects and branch off into smaller tubes called tracheoles. Tracheoles are the smallest tubes in the tracheal system and are responsible for gas exchange with cells, tissues, and organs. They are highly branched, thin-walled, and permeable to gases. The tracheal system is also connected to the outside environment through small openings in the exoskeleton called spiracles. Spiracles are usually located on the thorax and abdomen of insects and can be opened or closed to regulate gas exchange. Then the tracheal system relies on diffusion to transport gases. Oxygen diffuses into the tracheae from the spiracles and is transported to the tracheoles. Carbon dioxide, which is a waste product of metabolism, diffuses out of the cells and tissues and into the tracheoles, where it is carried back to the spiracles and expelled into the environment. The diffusion of gases is facilitated by the thin walls of tracheoles, which allow for rapid exchange of gases. Some important points are also associated with this. The tracheal system is unique to insects and is one of the reasons why they can survive in diverse environments. The tracheal system is highly efficient and allows insects to meet their metabolic demands. The tracheal system does not rely on the circulatory system to transport gases, unlike their respiratory system. The tracheal system is able to regulate gas exchange by opening and closing the spiracles. Examples: the tracheal system is essential for the survival of insects and is involved in a variety of physiological processes. It enables insects to fly, which is one of the most energy intensive activities for animals. The high metabolic rate required for flight is facilitated by the tracheal system, which delivers oxygen directly to the cell and tissues involved in flight. Insects also use the tracheal system for thermoregulation, as the flow of air through the trachea can help regulate body temperature. The tracheal system is also involved in the removal of waste products such as ammonia from the body. In addition to its physiological functions, the tracheal system has important ecological implications. Insects play a crucial role in many ecosystems, and the tracheal system is one of the adaptations that has allowed them to be successful in a wide range of environment. The tracheal system also has potential applications in biotechnology, as it provides a model for the development of artificial respiratory systems. Then organisms. The tracheal system is found in a wide range of insects, including beetles, butterflies, flies, and bees. It is particularly well developed in insects that have high metabolic rates, such as bees and moths. The structure and function of the tracheal system can vary among different groups of insects, reflecting the diverse ways in which they have adapted to their environment. The tracheal system is a highly efficient respiratory system that enables insects to meet their metabolic demands. It relies on diffusion to transport gases and is able to regulate gas exchange by opening and closing the spiracles. The tracheal system has important ecological implications and potential applications in biotechnology too. Then book lungs in detail. Book lungs are specialized respiratory organs found in some arachnids such as spiders and scorpions. These lungs are unique in structure and function compared to other respiratory organs found in animals. Its structure: book lungs are composed of several thin flat plates called lamellae, which are stacked together like the pages of a book. The number of lamellae can vary among different species of arachnids. The lamellae are surrounded by a cavity which allows air to enter and exit the lungs. So, there are some structures like thin, flat plates called lamellae, which are stuck together like the pages of a book. The number of lamellae can vary among different species of arachnids. The number of lamellae can vary among different species of arachnids. The lamellae are surrounded by a cavity which allows air to enter and exit the lungs. The outer surface of the lamellae is highly vascularized, allowing for efficient gas exchange. Book lungs work through a process known as diffusion. Oxygen diffuses across the outer surface of the lamellae and into the surrounding blood vessel. The oxygen is then transported to the rest of the arachnid body by the circulatory system. Carbon dioxide, which is a waste product of cellular respiration, diffuses in the opposite direction from the blood vessels across the lamellae and into the lungs. The carbon dioxide is then expelled from the arachnid body through small openings called spiracles. Then some organisms. Book lungs are found in several species of arachnids, including spiders, scorpions, and some extinct arachnids. The number of book lungs can vary depending on the species. For example, some spiders have one pair of book lungs, while others have 2 or 4 pairs. Book lungs are an important adaptation for arachnids living in environments with low oxygen levels, such as underground burrows or caves. They allow arachnids to efficiently extract oxygen from the air even when it is scarce. Additionally, book lungs are more efficient than the respiratory organs found in many other arthropods such as insects. In conclusion, book lungs are specialized respiratory organs found in some arachnids. They consist of thin flat plates called lamellae, which are stacked together like the pages of a book. Book lungs allow for efficient gas exchange through the process of diffusion and are an important adaptation for arachnids living in low oxygen environments. Then gills. Gills are specialized respiratory organs found in aquatic animals, including fish, crustaceans, mollusks, and some amphibians. They are responsible for the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the animal and its environment, allowing for respiration. Gills are adapted to extract dissolved oxygen from water, which contains far less oxygen than air. Then its structure. Gills are made up of thin-walled filaments arranged in stacks called gill arches. Each filament has numerous tiny projections called lamellae, which increase the surface area available for gas exchange. Blood vessels in the gills transport oxygen poor blood from the body to the gills, where it is oxygenated and then transported back to the body. Water is drawn into the mouth and passed over the gills, where dissolved oxygen diffuses into the blood vessels in the gill filaments. At the same time, carbon dioxide diffuses from the blood vessels into the water and is expelled from the body. The movement of water over the gill is facilitated by the action of animal's mouth and operculum, a protective bony covering over the gills found in fish. What is important? Gills are essential for the survival of aquatic animals. They allow these organisms to extract oxygen from their environment and release carbon dioxide, which is produced during cellular respiration. Without gills, aquatic animals would not be able to obtain enough oxygen to support their metabolic needs. Some examples. Fish are perhaps the most well-known organisms with gills. They have a variety of gill types, ranging from simple filamentous gills in lampreys to complex plate-like gills in bony fishes. Other animals with gills include crustaceans like crabs and lobsters, mollusks like clams and snails, and amphibians like salamanders. Applications. The study of gills and their adaptations has important applications in fields such as aquaculture and fisheries. Understanding how gills work can help researchers develop more effective methods for raising fish and other aquatic organisms in captivity. Additionally, the study of gill morphology and function can provide insights into the evolution of respiratory systems in animals. Then Ctenidia. Ctenidia, also known as gills or branchiae, are specialized respiratory organs found in mollusks, specifically in bivalves such as clams, mussels, and oysters, and some gastropods such as snails and slugs. Ctenidia are responsible for facilitating the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the mollusk and its aquatic environment. Structured ctenidia are made up of numerous thin finger-like projections called filaments. These filaments are arranged in pairs along the inner surface of the mantle cavity, which is a chamber located between the mollusk's body and the shell. Each filament contains tiny hair-like structures called cilia, which create water currents and aid in respiration. Water-containing dissolved oxygen is drawn into the mantle cavity through the inhalant siphon in bivalence or through a respiratory aperture in gastropods. The cilia on the filaments create a continuous flow of water over the gills, ensuring a constant supply of oxygen. As water passes over the ctenidia, oxygen diffuses across the thin walls of the filaments and enters the bloodstream. At the same time, carbon dioxide, a waste product of metabolism, diffuses out of the bloodstream and into the water. The oxygenated blood is then circulated into the rest of the mollusk's body. Ctenidia are crucial for the survival of mollusks in aquatic environments. They enable these organisms to extract oxygen from the water, which contains lower concentrations of oxygen compared to the air. Efficient gas exchange to the ctenidia ensures that the mollusk's metabolic demands are met and waste products are efficiently eliminated. Some examples: ctenidia are found in various species of bivalves, including clams, mussels, and oysters. They are also present in some gastropods, such as aquatic snails and slugs. The structure and complexity of ctenidia can vary among different mollusk species depending on their habitat and ecological niche. Some applications: understanding the structure and function of ctenidia has practical applications in fields such as aquaculture and environmental monitoring. Studying the ctenidia of bivalves can provide insights into their health and well-being, as changes in the structure and function of these organs can be indicators of environmental stress or pollution. Furthermore, knowledge of ctenidia is essential for effective management and conservation of mollusk populations, particularly those that are commercially important or ecologically significant. So in conclusion, ctenidia are specialized respiratory organs found in mollusks, specifically in bivalves and some gastropods. They play a crucial role in the extraction of oxygen from water and the elimination of carbon dioxide. Ctenidia's structure, function, and adaptations enable mollusks to thrive in aquatic environments, and their study has practical applications in various fields, including aquaculture and environmental monitoring. Then, next topic: physiological anatomy and histology of respiratory passage. The respiratory passage, also known as the respiratory tract, is a complex system of organs and structures responsible for the exchange of gases between the body and the external environment. It consists of various anatomical and histological components that work together to facilitate the process of respiration. Let's explore the physiological anatomy and histology of the respiratory passage in detail. So, nasal cavity. The respiratory passage begins with the nasal cavity, which is divided into two sides by the nasal septum. The nasal cavity is lined with the mucous membrane that contains ciliated cells and goblet cells. The cilia help to move mucus and trap particles toward the pharynx, while goblet cells secrete mucus to moisturize and protect the respiratory lining. Then pharynx will be there. The pharynx or throat is a muscular tube shared by both the respiratory and digestive systems. It serves as a common passage for air and food. The lining of the pharynx contains a stratified squamous epithelium which provides protection against mechanical stress and potential pathogens. Then larynx is there. The larynx, also known as the voice box, is located at the upper end of the trachea. It houses the vocal cords, which play a crucial role in speech production. The walls of the larynx contain several cartilages, including the thyroid cartilage or Adam's apple and the cricoid cartilage. The larynx is lined with a ciliated, pseudo-stratified columnar epithelium, which helps to trap and remove foreign particles. Then trachea. The trachea, commonly known as the windpipe, is a tube that connects the larynx to the bronchi. It is composed of C-shaped rings of hyaline cartilage, which provides structural support and prevent collapse during breathing. The inner lining of the trachea consists of ciliated, pseudo-stratified columnar epithelium similar to the nasal cavity and larynx. Then bronchi and bronchioles. The trachea branches into two primary bronchi, one leading to each lung. Within the lungs, the bronchi further divide into smaller bronchioles. The bronchioles continue to branch into terminal bronchioles, which eventually lead to the respiratory bronchioles. These structures are lined with simple columnar or cuboidal epithelium, and the number of cilia decreases as the airways become smaller. The next structure, alveoli. The respiratory bronchioles give rise to alveolar ducts, which ultimately lead to the alveolar sacs. Alveoli are small, thin-walled, grape-like structures responsible for gas exchange. They are surrounded by an extensive network of capillaries. The walls of the alveoli consist of a single layer of squamous epithelial cells known as type 1 alveolar cells. Type 2 alveolar cells secrete surfactant, a substance that reduces surface tension and prevents the collapse of alveoli. Histologically, the respiratory passage is lined with various types of epithelium, including ciliated, pseudo-stratified columnar epithelium, stratified squamous epithelium, and simple columnar or cuboidal epithelium. The presence of cilia and goblet cells in the respiratory tract aids in the movement of mucus and the removal of foreign particles. The physiological anatomy and histology of the respiratory passage are vital for efficient respiration. The structure and function of each component allow for the conditioning of inhaled air, the removal of particulate matter, and the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the alveoli. A healthy respiratory passage is crucial for optimal respiratory function and overall well-being. So in conclusion, the physiological parts are very important. Then next, physiological anatomy and histology of lungs. The lungs are vital organs of the respiratory system responsible for the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the body and the external environment. They consist of a complex structure that allows for efficient respiration. Let's explore the physiological anatomy and histology of the lungs in detail. First, lobes and lobules. The human lungs are divided into two main lobes on the left side and three lobes on the right side. Each lobe is further divided into smaller lobules, which are the functional units of the lungs. Lobules contain clusters of alveoli, blood vessels, and supporting connective tissue. Then bronchial tree. The bronchial tree is a branching network of airways that transports air to and from the lungs. It begins with the primary bronchi, which branch into secondary bronchi, then tertiary bronchi, and further into bronchioles. The bronchioles eventually lead to alveoli. The walls of the bronchi and bronchioles contain smooth muscles, cartilage, and elastic fibers. Alveoli are tiny air sacs located at the ends of the bronchioles. They are the primary sites of gas exchange. The alveolar walls consist of a single layer of squamous epithelial cells known as type 1 alveolar cells. The cells are very thin, allowing for easy diffusion of gases. Surrounding the alveoli are an extensive network of pulmonary capillaries that facilitate the exchange of gases between the air and the bloodstream. Then, surfactant will be there. The alveolar walls also contain type 2 alveolar cells which secrete surfactant. Surfactant is a lipoprotein substance that reduces surface tension within the alveoli, preventing their collapse during expiration. It also helps to maintain the stability of the alveolar structure and promote efficient gas exchange. Then blood supply. The lungs receive a rich blood supply to facilitate gas exchange. The pulmonary arteries carry deoxygenated blood from heart to the lungs, where oxygen is picked up and carbon dioxide is released. Oxygenated blood is then carried back to the heart through the pulmonary veins. Histologically, the lungs are composed of various tissues and structures that contribute to their function. The respiratory epithelium, which lines the airways, transitions from ciliated pseudo-stratified columnar epithelium in the larger airways to simple cuboidal or squamous epithelium in the smaller bronchioles. Smooth muscle fibers in the bronchi and bronchioles allow for the constriction and relaxation of the airways. Then the physiological anatomy and histology of the lungs play a crucial role in respiratory function. The intricate structure of the alveoli, the presence of surfactant, and the extensive network of pulmonary capillaries optimize the exchange of gases between air and the bloodstream. The branching nature of the bronchial tree ensures the efficient distribution of air throughout the lungs. The blood supply to the lungs ensures the delivery of oxygen and the removal of carbon dioxide. In conclusion, the physiological anatomy and histology of the lungs are intricately designed to facilitate efficient respiration. The lung structure, including the lobes, lobules, bronchial tree, alveoli, and blood supply, allows for the exchange of gases necessary for cellular function. Understanding the intricate details of lung anatomy and histology is crucial for comprehending respiratory physiology and the mechanisms underlying gas exchange in human body. Then next topic, mechanism of pulmonary ventilation. Mechanism of pulmonary ventilation, also known as breathing or respiration, is the process by which air is moved into and out of the lungs. It involves the coordinated action of several anatomical structures and muscles to facilitate the exchange of gases, primarily oxygen and carbon dioxide, between the lungs and the external environment. Let's explore the mechanism of pulmonary ventilation in detail. Inspiration. Inspiration is the process of inhaling or taking in air. It involves the contraction and movement of several muscles. Then diaphragm. The diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle located at the base of the thoracic cavity. During inspiration, the diaphragm contracts and flattens, increasing the volume of the thoracic cavity. External intercostal muscles. These muscles are located between the ribs. They contract during inspiration, lifting the ribs upward and backward, further increasing the thoracic cavity volume. Then scalene and sternocleidomastoid muscles. These muscles located in the neck can also assist in elevating the rib cage during deep inspiration. As the thoracic cavity expands, the pressure within the lungs decreases, creating a pressure gradient between the lungs and the external environment. Air flows from an area of higher pressure outside the body to an area of lower pressure within the lungs, resulting in inhalation. Then expiration. Expiration is the process of exhaling or expelling air. It involves the relaxation and movement of muscles. Diaphragm. During expiration, the diaphragm relaxes and returns to its dome-shaped position. This reduces the volume of the thoracic cavity. Internal intercostal muscles. These muscles located between the ribs can contract during forceful expiration to depress the ribs and decrease the thoracic cavity volume. Then abdominal muscles. The contraction of the abdominal muscles, including the rectus abdominis and oblique muscles, can assist in forceful expiration by pushing the diaphragm upward. As the thoracic cavity decreases in volume, the pressure within the lungs increases, creating a pressure gradient that forces air out of the lungs. Then control of breathing. The process of pulmonary ventilation is controlled by the respiratory centers in the brain, primarily the medulla oblongata. These centers receive input from chemoreceptors that monitor the levels of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and pH in the blood. The medulla oblongata sends signals to muscles involved in respiration to regulate the rate and depth of breathing. Then alveolar ventilation. Alveolar ventilation refers to the amount of fresh air reaching the alveoli per minute. It is influenced by both tidal volume, the volume of air inhaled and exhaled during a normal breath, and respiratory rate, the number of breaths per minute. Alveolar ventilation ensures that sufficient oxygen is available for gas exchange and helps remove carbon dioxide from the body. So in summary, the mechanism of pulmonary ventilation involves the coordinated action of various muscles to create changes in thoracic cavity volume, resulting in inhalation and exhalation. The control of breathing is regulated by the respiratory centers in the brain, which respond to the body's oxygen and carbon dioxide levels. Alveolar ventilation ensures efficient gas exchange in the alveoli. Understanding the mechanism of pulmonary ventilation is essential for comprehending respiratory physiology and the process involved in gas exchange. It is a vital process that enables the intake of oxygen necessary for cellular function and removal of carbon dioxide, a waste product of metabolism. Then inspiration processes. Inspiration, a process of inhaling or taking in air, is a vital component of pulmonary ventilation. It involves the expansion of the thoracic cavity to create a pressure gradient that allows air to flow into the lungs. Let's explore the mechanism of inspiration in detail, including the nerve control and muscle control involved. Mechanism of inspiration. Diaphragm contraction. The pulmonary muscle responsible for respiration is the diaphragm. The primary muscle responsible for respiration is the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle located at the base of the thoracic cavity. During inspiration, it contracts and moves downward, flattening its shape. This contraction increases the vertical dimension of the thoracic cavity, expanding the space available for the lungs. Then external intercostal muscle contraction. In addition to the diaphragm, the external intercostal muscles play a crucial role in inspiration. These muscles are located between the ribs and are responsible for lifting and expanding the rib cage. When they contract, the ribs move upward and outward, further enlarging the thoracic cavity and aiding in the inhalation process. The nerve control of inspiration. The control of inspiration is regulated by the respiratory centers in the brain, specifically the medulla oblongata. The centers receive input from chemoreceptors and other sensory receptors that monitor the levels of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and pH in the blood. The medulla oblongata can send signals to the muscles involved in inspiration to initiate and regulate the breathing process. Then muscle control of inspiration. Phrenic nerve. The phrenic nerve, originating from the cervical spine C3 to C5, innervates the diaphragm. What is that? Phrenic nerve. When stimulated by signals from the medulla oblongata, the phrenic nerve triggers the contraction of the diaphragm, initiating inspiration. Then intercostal nerves. The intercostal nerves, originating from the thoracic spine, innervate the external intercostal muscles. These nerves transmit signals from the medulla oblongata to the intercostal muscles, causing their contraction during inspiration. The intercostal nerves play a crucial role in expanding the rib cage and aiding in the inhalation process. What is the importance of inspiration? Inspiration is a fundamental process for the exchange of gases in the respiratory system. It allows fresh air rich in oxygen to enter the lungs, where oxygen is diffused into the bloodstream and transported to cells for energy production. Adequate and efficient inspiration ensures a sufficient oxygen supply for the body's metabolic needs and supports overall cellular function. So in summary, inspiration is a complex process involving the contraction of the diaphragm and external intercostal muscles. The nerve control of inspiration is regulated by the respiratory centers in the brain, which monitor blood gas levels and send signals to initiate and regulate the breathing process. The diaphragm and intercostal muscles are controlled by the phrenic nerve and intercostal nerves respectively. Understanding the mechanism and control of inspiration is crucial for maintaining proper respiratory function and ensuring adequate oxygen supply to the body. Next topic of expiration we will be learning with the help of next video. Thank you for listening.